Oh, welcome back. And my congratulations to each of you viewing this whole series of videos so far, the 100 level videos, for sticking with me. Again, I believe that understanding these principles can give you perspectives that overreach all of your specific efforts and applications. It should come as no surprise to you, because I've given you hints over the last couple of videos, what principle number 7 is. It's not only a principle, it is also a skill. And as such, it can be improved, rectified, and deepened. That 7th principle is to concentrate. I believe that concentration in all forms of business, sports, and performing arts has not been thoroughly researched enough. As such, it has been mostly defined by people of what it not is. Such phrases as, oh, I lost my concentration, or they seem to have a collective lapse in their concentration. Oops, I've messed around with my concentration. What are some other ones? Oh, there was a break in my concentration. Those are all nice, but it's showing what is happening when it is not there. Very few efforts have been made to say what is there, what are its components, and what can I do about it? So sit back, relax, take some notes, and here are some things we're going to talk about what concentration is. Charlotte Silver, who wrote a book called The Psychology of Skiing, said the best definition I ever heard on it. She said, concentration literally means a coming to a mutual center. Con-Cen-Tration, a coming to a center that is the process of it being a mutual center of mind and body, of strategies and tactics, coming to a mutual center between intensity and relaxation. Whatever these diametric opposites are in human performance, concentration brings that to a mutual center. Indeed, I believe that concentration is the brain, if you will, of human performance. Many times I've heard recently with athletes and performing artists talking about it, they say, okay, if I can be more patient during this performance. I believe when many people use patience, what they can very easily replace it with is concentration, and which is a more accurate representation of how they can apply themselves. Over the years, over the decades now, I have defined concentration in terms of 6 elements. Don't get blown away with this. It's just 6 elements. After I describe each of the 6, which are important skills to develop in and of themselves, but putting all of those together will enhance your concentration. Like any other skill, the more you practice individual ones and practice putting all of that together, then you can become more of a concentrated performer, a purposeful performer, indeed a patient performer, because concentration is engaging the whole mental elements of yourself. Now, these 6 are broken up into 2 areas of 3s. The 3 components of concentration, and then the 3 dynamic processes of concentration. Okay, bear with me here as I go through these. There are 3 elements, major components of the structure of concentration. I'll say each of these, and then I will describe each of these more in detail. Awareness, attention, yet remaining detached from the outcomes or the scores, or maybe even detached from yourself. Let's look at the first 2, which I started defining: awareness and attention. Awareness is more of being immersed in yourself in this performance situation where you are open, receptive, looking at the big picture. When people say become more aware, is that you're taking in the big picture. It is coming to you. Look around wherever you're viewing it right now and be aware of the room that you're in. Just let it come to you as a whole entity. Receptive process of awareness is the key of it. Just on the opposite of that is attention. Attention is an emphasizing of specific details. Oftentimes you use the word before called pay. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to what you're doing. That is a more narrow stream of giving that, where awareness is receptive, that attention is more detailing or even directed form of your mental energies. You hear the differences? Being aware is more open and receptive. Paying attention or being attentive is you emphasizing a specific application and you're putting out the energy out there. Some of the most remarkable athletes I see who have become masters of this seemingly dichotomy of being aware and paying attention are goalies, soccer goalies, lacrosse goalies, hockey goalies, the people who have to defend as it comes to them. I am constantly amazed at how great goalies almost seem to anticipate where the ball or the puck is going even before it's shot. The goalies I interviewed who were very good at this said the same thing, is that as the play is unfolding toward them, they are being openly aware, receiving, picking this up, and also immersed in the whole big picture of this, of how the play is unfolding, how the offense is coming and developing, what the defense is doing to protect. So they're being openly aware of who may be breaking down one sideline or where the puck or ball may be passed to. They are being openly aware. And when the puck or the ball is shot at them, they pay specific attention to it, looking it all the way into their gloves or deflecting it. They go through this process of what I call zooming back to the big picture, like a zoom lens on a camera, and then zooming in to paying attention to the specifics as they come along. This ongoing process strengthens the other. The more I can be openly aware, receptive, immersed, the more I can be specifically engaged in specific details of what it is. And this zooming process makes us a lot more attuned to both elements of it. For years, I had just accepted that concentration was just these two. Then in the last 15 years or so, I started seeing from performing artists or highly competitive athletes that they have a third element, and that is being detached. They could be so immersed and engaged in the moment of the performance or the competition that they stay detached from it. So often I would interview people after a peak performance, an A-level performance, and I say, what were you experiencing? And many of them said the same thing. I was surprised when it was over. They were so much engaged and immersed in the moment that they became detached from the outcomes, maybe even from themselves. Particularly those who are stat-oriented, statistics-oriented, who have a lot of quantitative outcome goals. Learning how to be detached from them is an element of concentration. All right, do these make sense? The polar opposites of being openly aware, being immersed in the moment, to paying specific attention to details, engaged in what is happening, actively engaged. That third element is also learning how to be detached, allowing yourself to be detached from anything in the future or anything previously in the past, being in the moment so much that you're just purely doing. Those are the three elements of concentration. I found out along the way that there's, no matter what your performance expertise is, the masters of that area have the same three dynamic processes going on. Again, I will just share with you the names of them, and then I'll describe each of them. As I had mentioned, the zooming in and out. Here's our old friend focusing. And then thirdly, having your concentration idle in breaks in the action. Okay, let me describe each of those. As I mentioned before, your concentration can be like a zoom lens. Or on your smartphone, do you ever open it up to get a bigger picture of it, or shorten it down? Is that zooming in to paying attention, zooming back to being aware of the big picture. This dynamic process of zooming in and out is a process, one that you can use and actually improve. That the more you engage in the specifics, the more you stay immersed in the big picture. That shift is zooming. Our old friend that most concentration has been misdefined as of focusing is really an enhancing of it. Again, using the analogy of a lens, that focusing highlights details, makes things more defined, more clear, more bright, more enriched in what you're doing. That if you can see in color, you can focus on all the details, maybe the blurs between details or the edges of details. The more you enhance your focusing of the moment, of yourself in the moment, the more you are engaged and immersed and actually there. So concentrating, whether it's being aware or paying attention, is good in and of itself. Can you key that up a little bit more by focusing on it, being specifically aware of the big picture, being precisely attentive to all the details? When you can do that, that dynamic process of focusing helps you enhance your level of concentration. When I say deepen your level of concentration, that's what one of the processes are. Learning if you're in awareness or attentive or even detached, and then enhancing that by focusing on that. Our third one seems a little strange, just like being detached seemed to be a little strange as one of the three components. This notion of idling is a form of concentration, of a dynamic process. When there are delays in the action or breaks in the action or distractions or timeouts, a lot of people during these breaks, whether it is a 2-minute break or a 7-minute break, they just kind of tune out to what's going on. Then when it happens again, the action happens again, they're almost in a shock. And they try to force getting re-engaged, force being aware. Excuse me. And that is a shock to them. Oftentimes, if they have to turn on their concentration, it never reaches the same levels of which it did before the break in the action. Whether it's a commercial break or an unanticipated distraction, that good performers have learned that when they have to back off, it's like their car at a stop sign or stop light. Foot on the brakes, and the car engine is not turned off. It is idling at a low revolutions per minute, usually about 800 RPMs, and it's still working. So they can just sit there and let it idle. For example, some of the baseball pitchers I worked with, when they are sitting in the dugout, when their team is coming up to bat, and their team has a huge inning, scoring a lot of runs, that this inning is going on forever. The best pitchers, while they're sitting in the dugout, they can just space out or joke with their teammates, or they can just sit and feel themselves idling. Okay, I'm still aware. All right, I'm still engaged. I'm focusing on the scene. I'm zooming in and out. And they're allowing their concentration just to idle at a low level, so that when it's their turn to come out of the dugout and pitch again, it's easier for them to make that smooth transition into back to their full levels of concentration. Does this make sense to you? Hope it does, because we zoom in and out, and that active zooming is like contracting a muscle. And it strengthens each time we zoom in or out. It strengthens our ability. Same thing with us focusing on specific details, enhancing the picture. In the 200 level series, when we talk about mental rehearsal and mental practice, that's one of those. Focusing, highlighting, enhancing, enriching that, also involving maybe some emotions with that. That's pure focusing, like on a lens. And then thirdly, when you're in the midst of the performance and there is some kind of break in the action, just allow your concentration to idle instead of turning it off altogether. Let it rev at a lower level, so that when you re-engage and then re-immersed, it's more of a natural startup process again. Now, each of these 6 skills can be worked on itself. You may, this for 12 days, spend 2 days being aware. Use that visually, then add your sense of sound, sense of taste. Use some of your other senses just to be aware of big pictures. You'll start seeing and feeling and sensing big dynamics going on around you that you might not have been aware of. Learn how to immerse yourself, into the moment, into the situation, the here and now. Then for 2 days, start paying attention to specific details of being precise, feeling that energy coming out in a purposeful, narrow way. And then thirdly, learn how to stay for 2 days detached from any kind of outcomes or results. Oh, well, I'm doing the best I can. Here's what I can control right now. The outcomes will take care of themselves. As you start doing that, you'll enhance each of those 3 components. Then you can start adding the 3 dynamic processes. Feel yourself for 2 days zooming in to paying attention to out to being aware, and feel this zooming going on. First, visually, you may want to do that. Then with if you're a musician, zooming in to your specific pressure your fingers are making on the instrument, playing a note, and then zooming back out to being aware of the flow of the performing. That zooming in and out helps. Then with the focusing on specific things goes along with paying attention. And then thirdly, learning how to idle. If your phone rings or you become distracted, just go on idle. What will happen very quickly, and that's just 12 days, 2 days for each of the 6 elements. It'll start coming together more and more. Remember when I was talking in the principle 5 about relaxing and came up with your acronym of CALM, coming up with words for C, A, L, and M. I've also specifically applied to concentration the other acronym of DEEP, D-E-E-P. And I'll go through particular ones here. The deeper you can go into yourself, the deeper you can go into concentration, the deeper you can go into the performance, that will enhance your efforts. Here's our D. Here's some words you can use, or may stimulate some other words on it. Determined, desire, discipline, of course, our friend detached, deliver, dogged, as in dogged positivity or dogged determination, dedicated, or purely our old friend do. Our E in our going deep into yourself. Execute, excel, empower, effort, right effort, emerge, allow them to emerge, engage, having your attention engaged in the moment. Here's something else, being elegant, being sweet in what you do, being graceful in what you do, using a sense of ease. Some people like to use the phrase easy does it, being efficient, being extraordinary, or whatever E letter you come up with, and you can use those combinations for the E and deep. Then our P is purposeful or positive or passionate or persistent or perseverant, powerful or pure. Maybe as I was reading these, again, we happen when we use the acronym of CALM, maybe some of those words for D, E, E, P stimulated some other words that mean more for you. Come up with your own acronym of what it means to go deep within yourself, deep within the performance, deep into the moment, into the here and now. Once you start emphasizing what is deep to you, then your concentration is expanded. One of my dear old golfing friends, Joanna McKnight, a wonderful golfer. She loves golf. She talks about golf all the time. She and her husband, Steve, take golfing trips to all parts of the country, and they just love not only seeing these wonderful places, but playing in these wonderful places. Once, some years ago, I was playing with them, and Joanna hit her approach shot to a green about 20 yards away from the green that required a nice little short chip shot to the hole. And she muffed it badly. It dribbled about 3 yards ahead of her. And she looked at me, and even not in an apologetic way nor a sheepish way. She said, "That shot required much more attention than I was willing to commit." I love that. Concentration implies a commitment, the commitment of your whole mental game. Concentration is just the outset of that. Can you commit more of learning your concentration of the 3 elements, being aware, paying attention, yet staying detached, as well as the 3 dynamic processes of zooming in and out, focusing by enhancing, as well as idling during breaks in the action. These 6 are skills you can use and improve each one of them. And what happens is as you improve each one of these, they start almost naturally integrating and blending together so that you can go more deep into yourself, into the performance. Con-Cen-Tration is a coming to a mutual center where all forms come together. Using now, again, the metaphor I had from the first principle of the best performances are those that are allowed to emerge from deeply within you. Remember that? That concentration is that process that allows the integrated, intuitive, experienced performances to come out. Where relaxing opens up the performance pathways, that concentration is the energy from coming to a mutual center that is allowing it to come out. You will find out in the 200 level series, I will share with you 3 different techniques to actually enhance your concentration. Once you get a handle on these 6 components and dynamics, there are some things you can do to enhance your skill development. Again, my congratulations on going through and listening and taking notes on all 7 of these key principles. Without strong principles, you cannot have strong perspectives, and these principles form the foundation to all of your efforts. They are your way back to yourself during a slump, during fears or doubts. They are ways on which that you can place specific emphases and techniques. Remember, principle number one, the best performances are those that are allowed to emerge from deeply within you. Principle two was every performance is a separate entity, unique unto itself, and treat it at every practice session or coming back after a break as a new performance. It has no relationship to any other performance unless you allow it to. Principle number three is learning how to accept versus expect. Accept yourself for what you're doing right now, who you are right now, not as an excuse, but it forms the foundation in reality of what you can enhance and what you can alter. Principle number four had all to do about goals, and make the goals, any type of goal you have, appropriate and attainable, the twin A's, and learning how, as much as you can, to shift your goals away from quantitative or outcome goals to specific qualitative, the qualities you want to exude, and process goals, how you want to emphasize those. Principle number five was our old friend learning how to relax mentally, physically, as a whole person, and how to stay calm and centered. And then our old friend, number six, was to purely do, not think, not try harder, learning how to immerse yourself into purely doing. And finally, what we covered today is concentration, a coming to a mutual center. You can see as I was describing those, each kind of bleeds over to the other, which is a good thing, that you can start having all of those elements more ingrained within you. Take notes on this every once in a while. If you're a person who journals, go back to these 7 principles, see how they relate to each other in your performances, and what you need to remind yourself of to do or be. I hope that makes sense. Even though this is the end of the 7th principle of the psychology of human performance, there are still a couple elements I want to describe in future videos before you go into the 200 level of videos of specific applications and techniques. Some of the things we'll be covering in the next couple 100 level videos is your playing personality. All of this stuff may make sense to each of you in different ways, based on your skill level, based on your performance area, and based on your personality. So we'll look at some simple ways of attuning and being aware of your performing personality. We will talk about the latest advancements from neuroscience on the psychology of learning and retaining. We will also talk about commitment. We'll also talk about mental health. Those are the last of the series of the 100 level series on the key principles and perspectives. Thank you for sticking with me. We shall see you next time. Concentrate.